Coming soon to Blu-ray.
I get to talk about Shrek 2! This movie is so stupidly fun, and I'm ecstatic that I had an excuse to watch it again because it has been far too long since the last time I saw it. Though I remembered it being a phenomenal movie, I'd forgotten just how phenomenal a film it is, and rewatching it just revalidated all of the hype this movie still gets to this day. It has everything. Comedy, references, romance that doesn't suck, you name it, Shrek 2 has it, and executed everything oh so well. Today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter, but has nothing to do with having a lack of things to talk about, and everything to do with my workload. But before we get into all the facts and trivia this movie has to offer, let's hit that quick recap. This movie is about a prickly but very devoted ogre going the extra mile to make sure his new wife gets her princesses happily ever after, and the two best wingmen anyone could ever ask for. After the disastrous meeting with Fiona's parents shortly after getting hitched at the end of the first film, Shrek finds himself stealing potions from the fairy godmother to try and boost his odds at being able to give himself and Fiona the normal life that everyone seems to be pushing onto them. Though he manages to turn Fiona human once again, and himself as well for the first time, the fairy godmother, Prince Charming, and Fiona's father collaborate to swap Shrek for Prince Charming as Fiona's husband. With the assistance of Donkey, now a horse thanks to the aforementioned potion, assassin turned iconic ally Puss in Boots, the gang from the original film, and Fiona's father once he's realized just how happy Shrek makes Fiona, the fairy godmother's and Prince Charming's plans are thwarted. And of course, Shrek and Fiona naturally have their very ogre but very happily ever after ending. This Oscar-nominated film had 18 wins and 52 nominations, with the highest tomato meter score of all 4 films, with a certified fresh rating of 89%, and falls second only to the first Shrek film's audience score with a score of 69%. Nice. With how often this movie is memed, however, I'm surprised the audience score isn't just a tad higher. To me, it felt objectively better than the original, like they knew they couldn't bomb the sequel since the first one did so well and just improved on it in every single way. The soundtrack absolutely slaps, and though I'm someone that could live without montage or music number sequences in animated films, I actually found myself enjoying them because it felt like I was listening to a playlist from the early 2000s. They were catchy, but not irritating, and the covers they did for this movie were hecking fantastic. You know which one I'm talking about. The characters were all fantastic too, and I enjoyed all of them, no matter how flawed, crazy, or sucky they were. I think my least favorite character was Fiona's mother, the queen, Lillian, and that's only because she was so, dare I say, normal compared to the rest of the crew, but that doesn't mean I didn't like her. In the new additions alone, the king, Harold, was a great bumbling oaf of an anti-hero, not quite villain because he just wanted the best for his daughter, but not a hero either because, well, he did hire Puss to off Shrek. Fairy Godmother was an absolute diva, and you couldn't help but love her even if she was the villain. And they did a great job of making Prince Charming that guy you wanted to punch in the face every time he opens his mouth, but make him funny all the while. Lillian was just the very level-headed new addition to this film, and though she wasn't by any means a bad character, she just wasn't near as fun. Don't worry, I didn't forget Puss, we'll get to him in a second. Changing gears, I'm an absolute geek when it comes to references added into movies. Pop culture, real-world events, other movies, you name it, I am here for the Easter eggs. And this movie delivered. Fiona's bedroom alone had me pausing every 2 seconds to scour the walls or simply laugh so I couldn't miss more while I did so. The Beauty and the Beast Be Our Guest homage, the Stonehenge poster made to look like a medieval band poster, and the Sir Justin poster plastered to the top of Fiona's bed were probably my favorite in this scene. The Sir Justin poster gets an extra gold star in my book, however, because Cameron Diaz, who voices Fiona, and Justin Timberlake, aka Sir Justin, had just started dating around the time this movie was made. Though the producers swear that when they added this cameo, they had no idea that they were dating. It's also pretty neat that they actually brought in Justin to play Fiona's cousin Artie in Shrek the Third. Just try not to think about how it's a little weird that he went from Fiona's crush to voice acting her cousin. You're welcome. Moving back away from that train of thought, I think my favorite reference of all is Puss in Boots himself. Since he was voiced by Antonio Banderas, I thought it was awesome that they really leaned into making Puss very much more like a comedic Zorro, another one of Antonio's characters, even going so far as to have him carve a 3/P, like Zorro does with a Z, into a tree when he meets Shrek and Donkey for the first time. Not to mention, the alien reference with him popping out of Shrek's shirt over his stomach in that same scene was the perfect touch. I also have to point out that the iconic scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the 80s movie we covered earlier this month, where Indy snatches his hat right before it's sealed off behind a slowly descending door in the spiked booby-trapped room, was also recreated in the potion scene with Puss grabbing his hat right before it's lost to him. I think it's pretty hecking awesome that one of the movies we're covering made such an iconic callback to another one of our movies, and from the same month no less. Coincidence? Absolutely, but so cool nonetheless. I'd also be remiss to not mention the Knight's new scene because it's probably one of the best scenes in the movie. Though I can't say I've watched an episode of Cops before, I'd absolutely watch this spoof any day of the week. I still cannot believe they made a freaking O.J. Simpson reference, complete with camera angles to match the footage of the actual car chase, but they did. And even after the shock value wore off, it's still some of the funniest shit they managed to pull off. From the police tackling Donkey and pulling the catnip off of Puss, to the massive pepper grinder substitute for pepper spray, that entire sequence was just comedic gold. Though a few of the references may show its age, like the Justin Timberlake poster showing that he was one of the it boys of this film's era, this movie will be eternally relevant and continue to hold up. The humor, the undying ideal of willing to do anything for love, the struggle with in-laws, even eating away one's feelings, are just a few of the many real things a lot of us are going to relate to, or know someone who relates to, that this iconic movie makes so comically fantastic and entertaining. This movie has aged so well and is still memed like crazy, with virtually no signs of slowing down in popularity. So let's take a look at the numbers. With a budget of $150 million, Shrek 2 generated an overall domestic revenue of $441,426,807 at the box office. Shrek also happily ever aftered his way into first place in highest monthly earnings his first month in theaters, with May earnings at $260,313,719, not to mention the domestic re-release earlier this year in April also managed to net an additional $3,427,910. This also just so happens to be the first film in our 2000s group to win both categories, carrying on the May double category winner luck for the third episode in a row. Nice job to the Swamp Gang! Like I said earlier, there is just so much that I wasn't able to cover in this episode, so please, please, please comment with all of your Shrek love and knowledge below. Were you a bigger fan of the first or second Shrek movie? Did you think the Fairy Godmother's I Need a Hero cover was better than the original? If you were Fiona, would you have kissed Shrek and gone back to the swamp as a human anyways? Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week in 2014.
Thank you, gentlemen. Someday I will repay you. Unless, of course, I can't find you or if I forget.
¡Hey tú, pedazo de carne con patas! ¿Cómo te atreves a hacerme esto?